Ah, there we go.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And then I think, yeah, then I'll just send it to Zahava, the recording. So, my
But
name,
first, tell me, how's your grandfather?
what?
How's your grandfather?
Oh, he turned 86 yesterday. Um, he's he's all right. You know, I think his condition is pretty stable. And I think he's not really in a lot of pain, but yeah, he sleeps a lot. Um, but doing, he seems to be in like a peaceful, like nice mood. Um, so yeah, but thanks for asking.
Is your dad still down there?
No, came back on Thursday. But I saw him. We did like a Zoom birthday thing, so I got to see him a little bit yesterday, which is nice.
Good.
Yeah. Um, so Zahava gave us or gave me um, like a list of questions that I can ask you, and then if there's anything else that comes up, we can also do that too.
Okay, sounds good.
Cool.
Go ahead.
So the first question is, where are you originally from, and your family in general?
Well, I'm originally from Charleston, South Carolina, or as we say down there, Charleston, South Carolina. And it's a very old Jewish community. What people don't realize that and the hard part is the reason Charleston was such a big port is because of the slave trade. But there was a time that it was a bigger port than New York, and there were more Jews than New York. There's the oldest synagogue building in continuous use in the United States, Congregation Beth Elohim. Anyway, so both of my grandfathers were born in Europe and came over in their teens. And both of my grandmothers were among the youngest in their families and were the first ones in the families born in the United States. They all of their older siblings were born in Europe as well. I don't know how my grandmother's parents made it to Charleston. I know that my father's father escaped from Russia when he was 13 during a pogrom and made his way to Charleston because he had an uncle and aunt there. My father's parents were first cousins. So he went to where his landsmen were. My mother's father was in New York, and her father took her to New York to make a shidduch. And they got engaged, and then my grandmother and great grandfather came back to Charleston and didn't see him again until the night before the wedding. So that's how my family ended up in Charleston, South Carolina.
It's really interesting. So the next question is, what is the story of your name, and are you named after someone else in your family?
Yes, I am named after my mother's grandfather, whose name was Isidore. And when she was pregnant, my great grandmother really wanted me to be named Isadora, but my mother thankfully said no and went by the Hebrew name. So his Hebrew name was Yehuda, and my Hebrew name is Yehudis, which is generally the Hebrew name of a woman named Judith. So,
Interesting.
yeah.
Yeah, it's really.
Well, so let's go back a second. So when my great grandfather brought my grandmother to New York to make a shidduch, he went to shul and he approached a man in shul and said, "You daven so beautifully. Do you have a son?" And he said, "Yes." And that was my grandfather, and that was the man I was named after.
Oh, that's cool. Um, and next question would be, is there a message that you live by and want to share with others?
Mm. I, that's a really good question. I've never put it to myself like that,
Mhm.
but I would say kindness is what I strive for. And I think that when you take that to its logical conclusion, it means that you treat everybody as you would want to be treated. And I've been political most of my life, and I was very active in the anti-war movement around the American war in Vietnam. And I would say that my definition of kindness encompasses economics, um, civil rights, anti-imperialism. Um, yeah.
That sounds pretty good to me.
Thank you.
Um,
That was completely off the cuff.
let's see. Next one is, what are you most passionate about?
Well, I would say the same thing.
Mhm.
Advocating for kindness.
Yeah. Okay. Um, are there any hobbies that you have?
Well, it seems like Ushalom is a bit of my hobby. I put in a lot of time. Um, you know, I I mean, right now that's,
Yeah.
I would say that's it for me. Since there's no social interaction
Yeah.
in person these days.
Um, when you were younger, did you have any like big interests? I guess like when you were a kid.
Well, I mean, since I was 14, that's when I became interested in politics and working against the war. And when I was, I guess, a senior in high school, um, I was involved in Temple Youth Group, and I was in a regional officer, Southeast Federation of Temple Youth, and it was Johnson's big war on poverty years. So I started and coordinated a project where all of um, our individual chapters were going into schools in poor neighborhoods and teaching, tutoring kids.
Hmm, really interesting. Um, let's see. What did you most want to be when you grew up, and why?
That's been one of the negatives in my life. I never did figure out what I wanted to be when I grew up. I just I knew that I wanted to have children and to have a straight 9 to 5 job with a regular paycheck. So, I didn't want to, um, I was interested in the law, and I've worked in law offices most of my adult life, but I didn't want to be a lawyer because I wanted my straight 9 to 5 and regular paycheck, so I could live my life around my children. But yeah, I never did figure that out.
Hmm. Um, um, what special foods and recipes do you associate with your family and family members?
Oh yeah. So my grandmother, my mother, both of my grandmothers were good cooks, but my mother's mother was a very good cook. And she told the story once of how she learned to cook. She said, she and Aunt Celie were about to get married. And so they went into the kitchen with Baba. Her mother was referred to as Baba by the grandchildren. And which, by the way, I have my grandchildren call me Baba. Anyway, so she said she and Celie, were being trained by Baba to cook. And she says, and Celie was such a good cook. And went, but Grandma, you're a really good cook too. She goes, but Celie's hands were the same size as Mama's. And that's how she learned to cook. So, one time I tried to get her to teach me how to make kreplach because I loved her kreplach. And, so she's like showing me, and I'm desperately trying to write this down because of course it's not written down anywhere. Oh, well, you take the flour and you put it on the table, and then you make a little well in the top and you put an egg in there. And then you put, you fill the half eggshell with water and you put that. And grandma. Anyway, I never could learn how to make her kreplach, but I make a lot of dishes that she made. She had a little trick for her chicken soup, which is to leave some of the leaves from the celery in the pot until the water boils, and then you have to take it out right away, or it makes it bitter. But I make her chicken soup. I make her sweet and sour cabbage soup. I make her simmus, except I make it without meat. She always made it with meat. I make harosis the way she told me how to, except when she told me how to make harosis, she says, and there's no such thing as too much walnuts. And I said, okay. But so when she was making harosis, she had us kids in the kitchen cracking the walnuts. And of course, we ate as much as we put in the bowl. So it was a slow process, and you didn't end up with a whole lot of walnuts. So, I go to the store and I buy already cracked walnuts. And let me tell you, there is such a thing as too much walnuts in the harosis. When it's that easy. But I finally got that one down.
How long have you been a member with Ushalom, and what do you most appreciate about it?
Well, I'm a founding member.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, So do you know the origin story of Ushalom?
Like, basically, I don't know.
So what happened was my friend Betsy Strasberg, called me up one day and said she was organizing a class for children who had, a lot of us had partners who were not Jewish. So she was organizing a class so that there could be some Jewish learning for our children. So the first year there was a class in her living room, taught by Rabbi Pam, who at that point had not yet received her ordination. I forget when she did. It was somewhere in this process. Anyway, so the first year there was a class in Betsy's living room, and it was very successful. So the second year there was a second class of a B'nai Mitzvah track, and that was in my dining room. And the third year, a third friend of ours hosted a class. So there were classes 3 days a week. And Pam came to us and said, I'm teaching 3 days a week. It's a lot of work. What if we incorporate and hire teachers and just have school 1 day a week, and it won't be as much work for me? And we go, organized religion, I don't know about that. But we did incorporate, and I think it was the year before we incorporated that we just kind of on a whim had services on Erev Rosh Hashanah And, we were a relatively small group, and we just put the word out and had over 100 people at this service. So it did seem like, there was a need out there. So we incorporated in 1991, and it took off. I mean, it was just clear that we were meeting a need in the community at large. And we grew very quickly. And the way we grew, the major way that we grew was by our kids telling their friends how much they loved this school, and they should, tell their parents to join Ushalom so they could come to this school.
Hmm. That's
So,
interesting.
yeah, yeah.
And was that like 30 years ago?
Well, it'll be 30 years this summer. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
This is our 30th year.
Cool. Um, let's see. Oh, yeah. And so what do you appreciate most about Orshalom?
The inclusivity. I'm told that we are rare in the amount of access that we give to non-Jewish members, which is the same access as Jewish members. We not only have non-Jews on our board, we've had non-Jewish presidents. We have, we invite non-Jews up to the Bima. And, I think that what I've always strived for, and I think that we've been successful at, is a feel. I mean, we chose the name on purpose. We wanted Ushalom Jewish Community. So we didn't call ourselves a synagogue per se. We called ourselves a congregation, and that's what was, a community, and that's what was important to us, was having this sense of community, and that everyone was welcome. And I think that we've been successful at that. I think that Ushalom is a very friendly Hamisha. Do you know Hamisha?
No.
It's a Yiddish term. It's homey. So we're not stiff and formal.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're very homey Hamisha community that, that has a lot of warmth and friendliness and welcoming.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we wanted, and I think we've been successful there.
Yeah. So that's all the questions that I wrote out, but something that comes to my mind, it just kind of popped into my mind randomly. Do you have a favorite author or book?
Well, Doris Lessing was my favorite author for many years. I read The Golden Notebook when I was had just turned 19. I had dropped out of school and was on the road to Missouri to start a anti-war GI coffee house at Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. And it was a very defining period of my life. And she talked a lot about what it is to be, a strong woman and a political woman. So, I have, fiction writer. Well, she's a fiction writer too, but I have others that I'll read everything they wrote,
Mm-hmm.
like Donna Leon. But I think in terms of the impact on my life, I would have to say Doris Lessing.
Huh. What would you say has been the best day of your life? Or if there isn't a best day, if it's all great, that's okay too.
Ay, ay, ay. Well, yeah, I have many. I have 3 children when they were born. That was pretty awesome. Um, and my marriage. Uh, yeah, no, I have to say I've had a very good life. I'm very grateful for it.
That's great. Um,
Do you have a best day of your life so far?
um, well, I don't have a best day of my life, I don't think, but I mean, some of the best, well, hanging out with my family is always, those moments are great, like having fun. And last summer, I went backpacking with some friends, um, and that was pretty amazing. It was, we, there wasn't any adults, but one of the person who was leading it, she's like extremely, like weirdly experienced in outdoor stuff. But that was a really amazing trip.
Where did you go?
We were just so we started by a place called like Twin Lakes, like just north of Yosemite National Park, and we were kind of on the border in between like Herbert Hoover Wilderness and the Yosemite, the park. But it was for like 5 or 6 days, um, and it was really amazing.
It's beautiful up there.
Yeah, I can't wait to get back, but maybe a while for that. Um, but yeah, so that was. Thanks for asking. Um, I guess I just have one more question. I don't know if it's like kind of maybe it's kind of cliche or like, but what do you um what does being Jewish mean to you?
Well, I think my views might be a little controversial on that because I do not believe in God,
Hmm.
but I believe in the basic precepts of Judaism. So, as I understand it, what we're supposed to be doing is mending the world and working towards getting us back to the Garden of Eden,
Hmm.
which in my mind is a perfect socialist state. Everyone's needs are met, everyone works to their abilities, and it's peaceful. And so, and there are very strong precepts. The strongest precept is the preservation of life. So, for example, I mean, this all has changed in the last couple of days, and we don't know how it's going to change. But the city of San Francisco was allowing religious congregations to have services inside. In Ushalom, we've said no. That's still too dangerous, and we preserve life, so we will not meet inside until it's completely safe to do so. We're not going to take chances with our members. Um,
Hmm.
I mean, Marx had a beautiful passage in one of his earlier writings. I think it was the German, can't remember the name of the book, but he talked about in the morning he could be a fisherman, in the afternoon a philosopher, in the evening a musician, and this was the kind of society that he wanted and was looking towards. Of course, that's never happened,
Hmm.
and there are people who say that you know the way humans interact with each other precludes that from happening. But I think it's a good ideal.
Yeah. Um, yeah, it's interesting. If the religion without God is it's like almost freeing because you don't have to be. That's what I was thinking. It's really interesting.
No, expound on that.
Oh, because like if you can just focus on like the values and like instead of like worshiping this person or this ideal, this kind of sucks up your energy. You can actually go about doing like focusing on qualities that you actually can find in life rather easily.
Yeah, well, I mean, I should say that I find the rituals comforting. So when my husband died, I sat a full 7-day Shiva, for example, because I think that it's based on solid psychology of the process that you need to go through to grieve properly. So I don't, I like services. I like our services. I don't so much. But so, that's what I mean. I'm not like, I mean, I identify strongly as Jewish. I always have, whether I wanted to or not, because, it's so deep in me and so much a part of me. So, I mean, I don't know that it's freeing to not believe in God. I think that people who believe in God get a lot of comfort from that. I know that people I know who've had children die, for example, derive a lot of comfort from feeling that when they die, they're going to see them again and be with them throughout eternity. A lot of the times I wish that I could feel that way. Because I do think there's a lot of comfort in having those beliefs.
Yeah. Or I guess maybe what I meant was like maybe I did that. I don't know. Like focusing. I don't know what I meant. I don't know. Sometimes it was not my interview, but I kind of like go back and forth with believing in God and not. And like there's times where I'm like, oh yeah, definitely. Other times like, nah. And I don't know. I guess I have a fluid belief. But anyway.
Well, you're at the age when you're supposed to be questioning everything.
Yeah.
So that's completely appropriate, and you should do that and keep exercising that muscle.
Yeah.
Because I think it's important to and again, this is what we've tried to do in Ushalom. I think it's important to not just learn things by rote, but to to have a lot of questions and to derive the answers that feel right to you. I mean, obviously, you have to have a strong moral underpinning to do that, which I know that you have because I know your family. But like when Ushalom started, we considered ourselves to be Jewish renewal. And the principle of Jewish renewal was to not do things by rote, not go into shul and just say the prayers and repeat the language over and over, without thinking through what it means. And that was very compelling to a lot of us to not just be praying by rote, but look at what you're saying and do you really mean what you're saying. And then when we decided to change to affiliate with Reconstructionism, I think Reconstructionism has a lot of those underpinnings. Renewal sort of went off into an almost neo-Hasidism, whereas I think Reconstructionism is still more about thinking about things and pushing at the boundaries and really examining. I mean, I've been very impressed by the rabbis I've met who've gone through the Reconstructionist training, because it's such a broad, rich education, and you know, it's in to my understanding, it's intended to be mind opening, and you know, not learning things by rote, but you know, really looking at what things mean and putting them in context of today.
Mm-hmm. Hmm. Interesting. Um, I know you had something later this afternoon, so if you need to go, that's fine. But
No, I'm okay for a few more minutes. Just tell me when you got what you need.
okay. I just had another question that came to my mind.
Okay.
Um, is there like an object that you associate with Judaism, like personally?
I'm sorry, what was the last thing you
Is there
said?
like again, an object that when you think of Judaism, is there like a physical thing that you think of that would come to mind?
Not consciously, no, no. Um, you know, there are of course the obvious answers,
Yeah.
but yeah, yeah. To me, it's in here and in here, but not so much out there.
Hmm. Yeah. Cool. Um, so that's all the questions I have. If is there anything else that you would like to say, um, that'd be great too. But that's it.
No, it just
Cool.
is. I mean, it's been great talking to you.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it too. Like, thank you
Thank
for
you.
being so open and all this.
Yeah. And you know, I mean, you have my phone number. Feel free to call me if you think of other questions or
Okay.
other things that you would like to try out on me or think through, or
Yeah.
I would actually really love that.
Hmm. Okay. Um. Oh, this is random. Um. Well, I don't know actually what your specific thing, your like role in Ushalom is, but what if we had like, I guess it would be when there's not a pandemic going on, or maybe not. I don't know. It could be over Zoom, but like a clinic or like a meeting where we someone like teaches like how to make like traditional Jewish foods, because I've like I started cooking more often over the summer, and I want to like learn more of that kind of stuff. So I would be interested in that, but I don't know. That's just an idea I had.
Well, like what would you want to learn how to cook?
I don't know. Just like the problem is I don't know. Um, or maybe I'm eating them I don't realize, but like I think it'd be cool to learn a lot of like the more like traditional, for me I guess, like Eastern like Ashkenazi foods. Um, I'm not sure if I'd actually like how they taste, but it seems it seems like an interesting thing for me. But
Well, you know, when this is over, you should count, you know, the HACCP committee in normal times has regular cooking parties where we cook up big batches of
hmm,
food and freeze them so that, you know, if there's an illness or a baby born or something like that, we have food that we can just get to
interesting.
people. Trying to think, well, maybe we're not cook, maybe we, I mean, you know, I mean, what comes to your mind when you're saying traditional Jewish
So
food?
like let's see, I guess the thing that most comes to mind is like kugel is the main thing for me. That's one that I like a lot. Um, and like stuff that I would have during the holidays. Yeah, but I don't really know. I don't exactly know what I would be cooking is the thing.
Well, I have a great kugel recipe I can share with you.
Okay.
I call it instant heart attack. I mean, it's so bad for you,
Yeah.
but it's really good.
Mhm.
Actually, I just made it and brought some to a family that has a new baby.
That's nice.
Yeah, well, you know, it's sort of like Jewish mac and cheese, but
Yeah.
yeah, you know, I mean, well, I make I make kugel, chicken soup, chopped liver, brisket, simmus. Um, Now my brain isn't working. My grandmother used to make this delicious sweet and sour cabbage soup. I make that. That's a big hit.
That's cool.
Yeah, I'll look and see what recipes I have in electronic form. I'll send them
Mhm.
to you,
All right. Thank you.
and you can tell me how you're doing with them.
Mhm. Okay. Um, so I think,
Gefilte fish.
yeah, yeah. I used to hate that, but now I'm coming around to it.
Well, I make my own horseradish,
Oh,
so gefilte fish with my horseradish is awesome.
okay. I should try that out. Um, so I think since you started the recording, I think that you have to end it. But I
Oh,
can.
okay. Well then, but will you have access to it? How does this work?
I should know more about, but I don't. I think I've never recorded a meeting before, so it might